In the shadowy world of organized crime, few names command the same level of respect and fear as Frank Costello. Known as the Prime Minister of the Underworld, Frank Costello was more than just a mobster. He was a mastermind who seamlessly blended the worlds of crime and politics, ruling with a blend of charm, intelligence, and ruthlessness. This is the story of a man who controlled more than just the mob. This is the story of Frank Costello. Frank Costello, known as the Prime Minister of the Underworld, was a major figure in the American Mafia and played a pivotal role in the development and operation of organized crime in the United States. Frank Costello was born Francesco Castiglia on January 26, 1891, in Loropoli, Calabria, Italy. At the age of 4, he immigrated to the United States with his family, settling in East Harlem, New York. Growing up in a tough neighborhood, young Frank got involved in street gangs, which marked the beginning of his criminal career. Rise to power. In his early 20s, Frank changed his name to Frank Costello, seeking to assimilate into American society. He started with small-time crimes like theft and bootlegging, but his big break came during Prohibition in the 1920s, when the sale of alcohol was illegal in the U.S. Costello partnered with other criminals, including Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky, to run bootlegging operations, making a fortune from illegal alcohol sales. The Luciano crime family. Frank Costello became a key member of the Luciano crime family, one of the 5 families that dominated organized crime in New York City. Under the leadership of Lucky Luciano, the family was highly influential, and Costello played a significant role in its operations. His expertise was in political corruption. He bribed politicians and law enforcement to protect the family's interests and ensure their operations ran smoothly. Prime Minister of the Underworld, Costello's ability to manipulate politicians and law enforcement earned him the nickname Prime Minister of the Underworld. He controlled a vast network of gambling operations, particularly slot machines, which brought in immense revenue. His influence extended beyond New York, reaching into Louisiana, where he had strong connections with local politicians. Leadership of the Luciano family. In 1936, Luciano was sentenced to prison for running a prostitution ring, and leadership of the family shifted. Initially, Vito Genovese took over, but when he fled to Italy to avoid a murder charge in 1937, Costello became the acting boss. Under Costello's leadership, the family expanded its operations and continued to thrive. In the early 1950s, the U.S. Senate conducted hearings on organized crime, known as the Kefauver Hearings. Frank Costello was summoned to testify, and his televised appearance made him a public figure. He famously refused to answer questions invoking the Fifth Amendment, but his testimony exposed the extent of political corruption and the Mafia's influence in American society. Costello's reign began to wane in the mid-1950s. Vito Genovese, who had returned from Italy, wanted to reclaim leadership of the family. In 1957, Genovese orchestrated an assassination attempt on Costello. The attempt failed. Costello was shot in the head but survived, uttering the famous words, "No, no, no." Though he survived, Costello decided to step down, ceding power to Genovese. After stepping down, Costello remained a respected figure in the Mafia but took a back seat in operations. He focused on his legitimate businesses and investments. Despite his criminal past, he managed to avoid significant jail time, largely due to his political connections and ability to navigate the legal system. Frank Costello died of a heart attack on February 18, 1973, at the age of 82. He was buried at St. Michael's Cemetery in East Elmhurst, Queens. Legacy. Frank Costello's legacy in organized crime is significant. He was a mastermind of political corruption and gambling operations, and his influence helped shape the modern Mafia. His life story reflects the complex interplay between crime, politics, and society in 20th century America.